Hi everyone. So today I wanted to talk about the oh so controversial Victoria's Secret fashion show, documentary, film situation. It dropped on Amazon Prime a few weeks ago and it seems to be very controversial and has started up a lot of discourse.
The models that they're using for this 2023 show, there are a lot of unhappy comments. Someone said, stop trying to please everyone, it's not working. This person said, as a curvy woman myself, this is really disappointing. This one I was like, okay, but then it took me out when I read the comments. Cause not the armpit hair, I didn't even notice it. It's definitely there.
Victoria's Secret has gotten so unserious. It's like they want these models to look as terrible as possible. I was growing up, Victoria's Secret celebrated beauty and femininity, and all the girls looked like they were having a blast. And now I just want to know who the creative director is, because I haven't seen a single fit that looks cute.
And I wanted to talk about it today because I think that reaction to the fashion show is really interesting and kind of says a lot about where we're at in terms of, beauty standards, what we consider beautiful and acceptable, because it seems as though in the past few years we've become a lot more accepting and celebratory of all kinds of sizes and shapes and body types and all those things. However, people are complaining that, this isn't Victoria's Secret. This is so far from the brand that we, fell in love with. And people are very annoyed with the inclusion of plus-sized models. Speaking of underwear, let's talk about today's sponsorship. Thank you, Honey Love, for sponsoring today's video. Treat yourself to the best shapewear on the market right now, along with a 20% off discount using my exclusive link, which is in the description. I've used shapewear before, maybe a couple of times, but I never found myself gravitating towards it just because of how unnatural and uncomfortable it tends to feel. It moves around under your clothes and it's sometimes too tight or not flexible and just hard to move in. But Honey Love is the complete opposite of any shapewear I've tried before. It's super comfortable and flexible and easy to move in. Their best-selling product is the Superpower Short. It's made with targeted compression technology, so it targets all of the places that need extra compression and support and uses less compression for areas where it's not needed. The Signature X targets the midsection without squeezing your natural curves while sculpting and smoothing the stomach and the thighs. The flexible boning in the side seams also allows the shapewear to stay up without rolling down underneath your clothing, which is probably the best part in my opinion, because shapewear moves around while you're walking and moving and then you're rolling it up underneath your clothes, and it's really annoying and just makes it a nuisance to wear. But you don't have to worry about that with Honey Love because the boning keeps it right in place. And the boost bands on the back of the thigh give the bottom a very nice supported shape. Honey Love also makes a bodysuit that uses 360 compression that smooths the stomach and the hips and also gives chest support without using any underwire. I'm actually wearing the shapewear right now. You can't really see my body, but I'm wearing it and I'm sitting down and I don't feel like I'm a sausage in a casing ready to bust out from the seams. Shapewear can also be really hard to take on and off, and usually if you're wearing shapewear it's because you're going to an event like a wedding, or maybe you're going to dinner, or you're out with friends and you're in public and sometimes you got to use a bathroom. And so with Honey Love shapewear you don't have to worry about struggling to take it on and off. Their shapewear has a 100% cotton gusset, so you don't have to wear an extra layer of underwear underneath. And there's a convenient opening in the panty area, so it makes using the bathroom very easy. And it doesn't stop there. Honey Love doesn't just have shapewear, but they also make comfy bras like this, as well as leggings and tank tops for daily support. So not only does Honey Love make you look good, but it feels good too. So again, if you'd like to treat yourself to the best shapewear on the market and save 20% off, use my link in the description and enjoy. Once you purchase, they will ask you who sent you, so if you'd like to support this channel, then please tell them I sent you. Stay sexy and stay supported with Honey Love. Now let's get back to the rest of the video. So first I want to dive deep into the actual brand and the history of the brand and how much it has evolved and changed over the years. So Victoria's Secret was founded in 1997 by Roy Raymond and his wife Gail Raymond. Gail Raymond. Gay or Gail? Gay Raymond? Gay Raymond. Her name is Gay. Good for her. Ally. So the story is that Roy was visiting a department store to buy some underwear for his wife, and he was deeply uncomfortable, as any man would be in an underwear store for women. And he thought, you know what? I should make this for men. I should make a store that men feel comfortable in, so when they buy underwear for their girlfriends or their wives or their grandmas, they don't feel weird and uncomfy. And that's where the idea for Victoria's Secret was born, and the first store opened in 1977 in San Francisco. So Victoria, who is she? Victoria is a sensual, dreamy character who was a combination of an English romantic modern feminist, or that's what I've read online. And you know, she's like a fancy, aristocratic, sexy British woman. There's like a big emphasis on like her being British for some reason. I guess British people, at least to Americans, are perceived as more classy, more refined. And that's exactly what Victoria represents. And Victoria was actually such a developed and important character to the story of Victoria's Secret that when they were developing the brand, people genuinely thought Victoria was a real person. They're like, so where's she at? Are you gonna meet her? And they're like, well, she's not real. And as I'm saying that out loud, it kind of makes sense as to why their branding is so unrealistic, is because even Victoria, the woman that the brand is based on, is not a real person. A big part of Victoria's Secret's original success comes from the catalog. The catalog did a really good job at developing and creating this fantasy for consumers, and it created this fantastical, aspirational image for the brand very quickly, mainly due to the kinds of women that they would cast for these catalogs. Like the models that they used were just so gorgeous and beautiful, and that's really what helped sell the brand, which obviously is a consistent theme throughout the Victoria's Secret brand and its history. So in attempts to compete with Sara Lee's Wonder Bra, Victoria's Secret started doing television campaigns in the 90s, which then translated into the Victoria's Secret fashion show shortly after. The Victoria's Secret Angel character was actually introduced during the Angel's Underwear television commercial in 1997 with supermodels like Tyra Banks, Helena Christensen, Karen Mulder, and Daniela Pestova, as well as Stephanie Seymour. And so soon after this original Angels collection launched, the term Angel became synonymous with the brand. And from 1995 to 2018, the Victoria's Secret fashion show was a very essential part of the brand's image, and featuring the annual runway spectacle of models promoted by the company as these like fantasy angels. I don't know about you, but when I think of Victoria's Secret, I do think of the fashion shows, I think of the models, I think of the bold hot pink colors splashed across the stores. I also think of Pink, the other brand that's more marketed to teenagers, I think. Victoria's Secret has had a very steady and strong image and branding for a very long time, essentially from its inception. And so now they've really gone in the opposite direction, and it's really jarring to people to see how different the rebrand is, and it seems kind of inauthentic and contrived. But I understand why Victoria's Secret went in this direction, outside of the obvious being inclusivity is trendy now. Brands are incentivized to be more inclusive, or else, you know, they'll get canceled, which Victoria's Secret has been canceled or has been met with a lot of criticism in the past. So I'm not sure why people are so shocked by the change, because like this, based off of past controversies, it seemed like this was the necessary move to make in order for the brand to survive. I will now explain said controversies. As described by Business Insider, Victoria's Secret has been the leading lingerie retailer in the US for several decades, but its prominence has been shaken up in recent years after the lingerie brand faced sluggish sales, criticism for its lack of model diversity, and size inclusivity scandal for possible ties to Jeffrey Epstein, and an entire brand image overhaul. There's a whole documentary about this where they talk about Jeffrey Epstein's ties to Victoria's Secret, and he was like going around New York City being like, I'm a Victoria's Secret recruiter, and he wasn't. So you can put two and two together of how that was a major issue. What I find most interesting about their controversies is the quotes from Edward Razik, who is the chief marketing officer of Victoria's Secret's parent company, L Brands, where he once said that he didn't think that the Victoria's Secret fashion show should feature transsexuals, his words, not mine, because the show is a fantasy. Keep that in mind. Keep that quote in mind. He also said, we market to who we sell to, and we don't market to the whole world, he said. We attempted to do a television special for plus sizes in the year 2000. No one had any interest in it. Still don't. Which, honestly, I feel like that quote has aged well, in the sense that people are still not interested in plus size Victoria's Secret models, as we have seen from the reception of this fashion show, which we will get to in a moment. But I disagree that they're marketing to who they sell to, because plus size women do buy Victoria's Secret clothing. I don't know how size inclusive it was back in the 90s or early 2000s, but now, like, if you're plus size, you can get Victoria's Secret underwear. And I think that's also like a big reason why they lean towards inclusive casting, because whether they use skinny models or not, like, plus size women are buying their products and always will. The exclusivity of Victoria's Secret has always been a major component of the brand and its success, honestly. And of course, he issued an apology because people were like, what the hell? And he said, my remark regarding the inclusion of transgender models in the Victoria's Secret fashion show came across as insensitive. I apologize. To be clear, we absolutely would cast a transgender model for the show. We've had transgender models come to castings, and like many others, they didn't make it. But it was never about gender. Sure. I admire and respect their journey to embrace who they really are. This is like such a funny apology. It's like, yeah, there's been transgender people at the castings, but they didn't make the cut. Wonder why. Sorry. It's like such a non-apology when you really think about it, but he clearly did not give a fuck. Anyway, so let's now fast forward to present day Victoria's Secret in the year 2023 and its newfound brand of inclusivity and acceptance, body positivity, etc. So the Victoria's Secret World Tour, not the Victoria's Secret Fashion Show, because that ended in 2018. The Victoria's Secret World Tour is, it's a fashion show. It's a televised fashion show on Amazon Prime. They're pretty much just trying to recreate the Savage X Fenty fashion show, but make it Victoria's Secret. However, I think the big issue is that nothing about it resembles the original Victoria's Secret brand. So the mission statement of the World Tour is, the goal was to give a new generation of creatives from around the world the opportunity to tell their stories and see their creations brought to life on the world stage. The platform, the VS show. This film is theirs. Which, I think they accomplished that. I think the mission statement perfectly describes what I watched. A complete departure from the original Victoria's Secret fashion show, which is really the problem, or at least that's what people are complaining about. The show opens with Gigi Hadid playing the role as this like producer. She's pretending to be like backstage at a fashion show, establishing herself as the voice of the show. And then she gives this like very informal, tongue-in-cheek introduction to the show, outlining what's to come, which I think was very intentional, obviously, because that also contributes to this rebrand of Victoria's Secret, a kind of this like chill, informal, laid back experience that is different from the more polished Victoria's Secret fashion show experience, which is interesting because it again completely diverts from the original branding of this like sophisticated, sexy, aloof, mysterious British woman. The show follows like multiple artists from around the world. It's like 4 different cities. There's filmmakers, there's fashion designers, and they're showcasing their art through the Victoria's Secret, I don't want to say lens, but you know, like they said, Victoria's Secret is a platform. This film is theirs. So much of theirs that you didn't even have to call it a Victoria's Secret fashion show. It could literally be any brand and it wouldn't make a difference. There's like various designers, so they're not designing for a cohesive line, you know? They're not necessarily designing for Victoria's Secret. They're just designers making their own clothes on a Victoria's Secret platform. The garments are not in the style of traditional Victoria's Secret 10-foot angel wings with a bedazzled bombshell bra. Like, it is completely different from that. The whole thing was kind of boring, honestly. I like was really drudging through it, and it feels kind of random because obviously there's like different cultures being represented, but it doesn't seem to be connected in any way, and it just feels very disjointed. And then like Doja Cat's like singing in the middle of it, and it's just like really random. But let's really talk about the juice, the meat of the episode, if you will, which is the casting, because there's really not a whole lot of like professional high fashion supermodels in the show, other than like a handful of Victoria's Secret veterans like Adriana Lima, Lily Aldridge, Candice Swanepoel. I don't know if I pronounced that right. And I've seen people online say like even the OG models weren't done justice because of the atrocious designs. It's people have expressed loud and proud that they want the unattainable models. They want the aspirational, fantastical, unrealistic energy of the fashion shows that we've been seeing for years, which completely goes against what people have been saying for the past like 5 years, I feel like. I mean, the chief of marketing literally had to apologize. I mean, granted, he said some insane things, but like people are still sharing the same sentiment as him, being like, well, it's a fantasy. It's supposed to be selling fantasy, not reality. That's what makes the brand so special and intriguing. We're seeing this like swing of the pendulum from people wanting inclusivity to now wanting the original branding of Victoria's Secret again, which I can imagine to the brand and the people behind Victoria's Secret is like confusing to them, because it's like, isn't this what you wanted? And even I'm kind of confused, because I'm like, well, so what's the answer? I think there is a way to have inclusivity even with a brand like Victoria's Secret. However, because they've strayed so far from the original brand and to the point where the brand is like unrecognizable, it just makes it even worse and even more jarring for people who prefer the old Victoria's Secret. I think the criticism about the show being performative is fair. Like, I think that seems to be a recurring issue with the new wave of inclusivity and diversity, is that it doesn't come off as authentic sometimes, and it just feels very forced. It's like, oh, we got a fat model, we got a model in a wheelchair, we got a black model, we got whatever, and it's like checking off a list with a lack of like true intention and like wanting to be inclusive and to represent people. It's really just about like looking good and for optics and for, well, surprise, a fashion show is about optics, but like it's really just about getting those brownie points rather than having like a genuine desire to include different kinds of beauty in a fashion show. And honestly, in the documentary, it was very heavy-handed with its attempts to be inclusive and bring up topics around identity and diversity and social awareness. It's like, okay, we get it. Victoria's Secret is woke now. But when am I gonna see some titties? The largest critique I've seen about the show with the casting is the way that the plus-size models were styled. A lot of people said their garments didn't fit properly, and I'm not a seamstress or a designer or anything, so I'm not the best at, like, spotting if something fits correctly. To me, it just looked like they put plus size models in underwear and people can see their plus sizedness and they're like, cover it up, put it away, that's wrong, it doesn't even fit her. It's like, well, I don't know, I think she just has a belly. And so I'm like, is it unflattering or is that just her body? I don't know. Yeah, actually, I take it back, because what the fuck is this? Whoever put this girl in this outfit is just mean. But there's also been plus size people who have expressed that they don't like the way that the models were styled and they just kind of threw something on them, and it's not the right way to represent plus size people, because it's like setting them up for failure, because people are going to be like, oh, like, put it away. As a curvy woman, this isn't it. The editing is horrific, embarrassing. Stop trying to please everyone. It's not working. This looks horrendous. Why not make beautiful plus-size clothing that accentuates curves instead of trying to squeeze plus size into this? Listen to what people are commenting on social media. This isn't it. But I do think that this kind of exposes the truth about what people find beautiful. And because people are like, oh, like, it's supposed to be a fantasy, so they shouldn't have these realistic looking models. But it's like, well, can fat people not exude fantasy and wonder and mystery? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Being plus sized or being average sized is too easy. It's too common. Whereas being a tall, skinny, 5'10", blonde hair, blue-eyed models with size double D boobies, that's unattainable. That's fantasy. I've personally never fantasized about being a 5'10", blonde hair, blue-eyed, double D'd model, but like, to each their own, I guess. I don't know. So after spending more time with this topic and editing this video, I'm realizing that there really are two different sides to this negative backlash. There's people who miss the original Victoria's Secret brand and want to see that classic, unattainable beauty that is so heavily associated with Victoria's Secret. And I don't think that's necessarily wrong. Like, I think there was something really fun and whimsical about the Victoria's Secret fashion show that I know a lot of people find enjoyable. This is also coming from someone who has never been like a huge fan of Victoria's Secret. I've never loved or hated them. I've bought their underwear before, but I have no strong opinions about what used to be. But within the party of people who miss the old Victoria's Secret, I think there is a lot of, fat phobia going on, where it blatantly shows that people don't consider plus size people to be attractive or hot. But the other party is seemingly people who are plus sized, who are disappointed with the way Victoria's Secret chose to represent plus sized people. And unfortunately, due to Victoria's Secret's desperation to survive as a brand, they've conceded to the inclusivity trend and really missed the mark and executed it poorly, because chasing a trend isn't going to guarantee success. And even something as seemingly wholesome as inclusivity that's not going to work if you don't actually know how to do it properly. And this is the issue with inclusivity and diversity being a trend. It's like tokenism. It doesn't actually solve the root of the problem. It's just putting a band-aid over it. And this is why, unfortunately, even something as great as inclusivity and diversity, it shouldn't be a trend, because it's not actually taken seriously. And of course, Victoria's Secret, of all brands, flops at trying to be inclusive, because that is the antithesis of their brand. That is the opposite of what their brand has been for the past 40 years. So of course they didn't do it well, because that's not who Victoria's Secret is. So I do understand it when people say stop trying to cater to everybody. Not everything has to be made for everybody, because that's not really how the world works, first of all. And also, it's impossible to make something for everyone and to please everyone. And I don't think that's necessarily the goal for inclusivity, but I think this trend of inclusivity has been blown so much out of proportion that it just looks like a joke. And so with all this, it makes me wonder, can Victoria's Secret survive in this period in time? Because they've really been struggling for the past few years, especially since the rise of the body positivity movement. And as they've moved into that space of being more inclusive and body positive, they still are struggling, because it seems no matter what they do on both sides, they're going to cause controversy and dissatisfaction amongst customers and fans. Is the answer for them to go back to the original branding? Because now we have a lot of brands who are size inclusive and are holding space for those who aren't, thin. Because now there are more brands that offer size-inclusive clothing and are more diverse in their brand. So maybe now Victoria's Secret can have its space of being this unrealistic, fantastical company. But I don't know. It's really hard to say. And I think, honestly, at this point, they've had a good run. Might as well just hang it up. Also, fast fashion I wouldn't say it's out of style. People still still participate in it, but there are better options now than Victoria's Secret, and I think that also is a big contributor as to why it's not a successful brand anymore. But also, they've lost their defining characteristic, the thing that makes Victoria's Secret. And so with that, it seems they're doomed to fail. But I am curious to know what you guys think. Also, I'm not wearing makeup today. Not that needs to be announced, obviously, but I don't know. I've been feeling very much naturally beautiful. I most of the time feel naturally beautiful, but I just really didn't feel like wearing makeup today, and my skin has never been better. So it's a no makeup vibe, maybe in a way that contributes to today's topic. We're talking about beauty standards and what is beautiful, what isn't. So yeah, tell me how beautiful I am in the comments without makeup. Also, leave a like while you're down there and subscribe if you're not, because come on, babe, it's about time. Thank you again, Honey Love, for sponsoring today's video. If you would like extra content from me, then check out my Patreon. And I also post videos for early access sometimes when I have the time, but I would say 80% of the time. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.